What if the biggest thing keeping you from your purpose is not your circumstances? What if it's the foundation that you've been building your life on? Most of us spend years trying to change our habits, our confidence, our relationships, even our careers. Without realizing we're trying to renovate a house that has been built on the wrong foundation. For years, I thought that renewing your mind simply meant just thinking more positive, but scripture paints a deeper picture because if the enemy can convince you of the wrong identity, then you will build an entire life around a lie. And that is exactly what he wants. So today I'm going to show you a picture that completely changed the way that I understand identity, purpose, and spiritual growth. So we're kind of just going to jump right into it today. I have a verse that I'm going to read to you that completely changed the way that I see this, and this is how it connects. So I have my notes right here. I'm going to read it off from my notes. So the verse is 1 Corinthians 3:12 through 16. And this is how everything ties together. Now, if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man's work abide which he has built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss. But he himself shall be saved, yet as so by fire. Know ye not that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? So I know you're probably asking, well, what does building materials or even building a house have to do with anything? So I'm going to give you a demonstration today on my whiteboard. Okay, guys, so I want you to imagine that your life is like a house. And every day, whether you realize it or not, you are building onto your house. So let's go ahead and draw two houses. So I want house one to be made out of hay, straw, wood, stubble. And then my second house is made out of gold, silver, precious metals, that such. So at first glance, yeah, the houses, they look exactly the same. They both have a foundation. I'm going to label the foundation as Christ because all houses have to be built on Christ regardless of what's happening in our life. Both of them have walls, they have a roof, they have dreams. So let's talk about the first floor of our house. So the first floor of our house is our identities. So we're going to examine house one's identity floor first. So this is the house that is made out of the hay, wood, stubble. The first floor of house one is built on fear, trying to earn approval, on proving its worth, on shame, on insecurity. And here is what most people don't realize. They're not just the beliefs that you have about yourself. These are the building materials that you are using to build your home. So every fearful thought, every false identity, every prideful motive, every mask that you wear, even every attempt to gain validation from people, it is just another piece of wood you're adding to your house, another handful of hay, another pile of stubble. While I know you're thinking, yes, you can still build a house from these materials, but can you survive the fire? So look at house two. It is made out of the gold, the silver, and the precious metals. This house is built on truth, faith, obedience. So this house is also being built every single day, but it is being built from different materials. I just realized I spelled obedience wrong. Please ignore that. Security in who God says you are. So every act of faith is another piece of gold being built onto the house. Every moment of obedience is another piece of silver. Every truth that you build your life upon becomes another precious stone. So now let's look at the second floor of our homes. So this is where our dreams live, our calling, our purpose, our creativity in our second floor of our home. And you'll notice something because both houses, they have dreams, they have goals, they both have visions for their future. But the difference here is not the dream. The difference is what the dream is being rested on the first floor. Most people are trying to build a beautiful second floor while using the weak materials on the first floor. So when Paul in First Corinthians is talking about the building materials, now if any man shall build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, suddenly the verse makes sense because Paul is not talking about homes. He's talking about our lives. He's talking about what we are building our lives from. And then he says, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And that's my best fire I got. So the fire does not create the quality of the house, but the fire will reveal it. Because fear will always burn, mask will burn, performance will burn, false identities will burn. But the thing that stays is truth, faith. What God built remains. Most people are trying to build the second floor and live in their dream lives and in their purpose while their first floors are legit falling apart. So you're trying to step into this purpose while believing the self-limiting identities about who you are. And this is why renewing the mind matters so much, because when identity becomes rooted in truth instead of fear, then purpose finally has somewhere stable to live. Because you can't follow your purpose or live in your dream life when your identity is so conditioned around the fear, the worldly logic, and the doubt. And then Paul says something even more profound. So when Paul says, you are God's temple and that God's spirit dwells within you, he is inviting you to see yourself differently. This means that our lives are not just some empty structures. They are sacred places for where God's presence desires to work, to transform, to bear fruit. We are made in the image of God, and we are co-creators with our Father. Many people spend their entire lives trying to discover their purpose while still operating from these limited identities that are made out of the wood, the straw, the stubble. They see themselves through past failures, through other people's opinions, through what they think that they lack. And then people wonder why they feel so disconnected from the one who you were truly created to be. But your purpose can become much clearer when your identity is restored, because you cannot fully walk in what you were created to do if you do not understand who you were created to be. And this is the reason why scripture speaks so heavily on renewing the mind, because many of the limitations that we experience daily were never placed there by God. They were learned, they were repeated, accepted. And not only that, they were built into the structure of how we see ourselves. But if you are God's temple and God's spirit dwells within you, then your identity is much bigger than your fears. It's much bigger than these limitations that we put on ourselves, our past. And when that truth begins to take root, you can stop building a place from scarcity and start building a place from purpose. And the greatest obstacle standing between you and your purpose is not your lack of ability. It's actually the limited version of who you truly think you are. There's actually nowhere in scripture that tells us that God tells us that we have to shrink the vision that he has placed inside of us. And the most beautiful thing about this house that we are building is God is not asking us to completely destroy it and demolish it and start over. He is asking us and inviting us to rebuild it with him. So that means when your foundation is built on Christ, then identity does not have to be earned. Your purpose doesn't have to be manufactured, and your future does not have to be driven by fear. The rooms that feel unstable right now are not proof that you have failed. They are only invitations to go deeper, to examine the person that God has truly called you to be. So today I want you to examine the houses or the house that you have built right now. Think about everything that is built on the hay, the stubble, and the wood. I want you to ask what part of your house that you are building today, because every thought that you believe lays another brick. Every decision becomes another beam in your house. And every day you are building this house, and that one day will reveal what it is truly made of. So I want you to start practicing today, building the house that remains. You can simply do this by looking at the inventory of the house that you have built today, go get a piece of paper, pen, write down every limiting thought you have about yourself. Write down the good and the bad. I want to see what your entire inventory is. Once you have that down, written down in front of you, then you can actually examine which part of your house is made out of wood, straw, stubble right now, or gold, silver, because I guarantee there's going to be some things that are actually built from silver and gold as well. This is a great place to start renewing your mind because every bad thought you have, you can start strengthening them by replacing them with a thought that will actually lay gold or silver in your house. So, thank you guys. I hope this was a helpful framework of how to start renewing your mind and how to start seeing that more clearly. But hope you guys have a great, blessed day, and I will see you later.